12 backup musicians better than the frontman. The spotlight always finds the lead singer, the screaming fans, the magazine covers, the fame. But behind every iconic frontman stood musicians whose talent often surpassed the star they supported. These are 12 backup musicians who outshined the artists they played behind. Number 12, Phil Collins. Before becoming one of the biggest pop stars of the 1980s, he spent 5 years as the drummer, sitting behind Peter Gabriel. Collins joined Genesis in 1970 at age 19, recruited through a Melody Maker advertisement. His innovative drumming on albums like Selling England by the Pound and The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway helped define the progressive rock sound of the early 70s. Critics praised the band's complexity, but Gabriel's theatrical presence dominated every interview and stage performance. When Gabriel departed in 1975, citing exhaustion and creative differences, Collins reluctantly stepped to the microphone. Calls out to the man on the street. Sir, can you help? The drummer became the frontman, and everything changed. His 1981 solo debut, Face Value, sold 25 million copies worldwide, driven by the haunting In the Air Tonight and its iconic drum fill heard around the world. I know the reason why you keep silent. By the time he retired from touring, Collins had amassed 7 U.S. #1 solo singles, more than Gabriel ever achieved as a solo artist. Genesis itself became more commercially successful under Collins than during the Gabriel era, scoring mainstream hits like Invisible Touch and Land of Confusion. The backup drummer had become the bigger star, selling over 100 million solo albums. Number 11, Luther Vandross. His voice sold Burger King and Mountain Dew before it sold 40 million albums. Vandross spent the early 1970s singing commercial jingles, his distinctive tone selling fast food and soft drinks to American television audiences. His first major break came when David Bowie recruited him to sing backup on the landmark 1975 album Young Americans, the title track's Soaring. So demanding, open the door up and to my surprise there you were standing. Backing vocals came from Vandross, whose rich baritone elevated the entire project. He continued backing Chaka Khan, Donna Summer, Barbra Streisand, and Carly Simon, becoming one of the most sought-after session vocalists in the industry. Look in your eyes, His solo debut, Never Too Much, arrived in 1981 and immediately went platinum. The title track reached #1 on the R&B charts, and Vandross never looked back. He won 8 Grammy Awards over his career, including 4 consecutive Best Male R&B Vocal Performance Awards from 1991 to 1994. Songs like Here and Now and Dance with My Father became wedding staples across America. The backup singer who once harmonized behind Bowie had become R&B royalty, his voice defining romantic music for an entire generation, until his death in 2005 at age 54. Number 10, Glen Campbell. I love you even more than I did before. The Arkansas farm boy played guitar on more hit records than most artists ever release. Campbell was a core member of the Wrecking Crew, the legendary group of Los Angeles, session musicians who played on thousands of recordings throughout the 1960s. His guitar work appears on the Beach Boys' masterpiece Pet Sounds, the Righteous Brothers' You've Lost That Lovin' Feeling, Frank Sinatra's Strangers in the Night, and hundreds of other chart toppers. Oh, I need a small vacation. When Brian Wilson had a breakdown during the Pet Sounds tour, Campbell stepped in to play bass and sing harmonies on the road. The sessions paid between $50 and $100 each. Campbell played 3 to 5 per day. His solo career eventually eclipsed almost everyone he'd backed.
You're moving on the back roads by the rivers of my memory, and for hours you're just gentle on my...
Gentle on My Mind won 4 Grammy Awards in 1968. By the time I Get to Phoenix, Wichita Lineman, and Galveston became American standards. Rhinestone Cowboy hit #1 in 1975. Campbell sold 45 million albums, hosted his own television variety show, and earned a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
When the yard broke off, they say that I got killed.
The anonymous session guitarist had become a household name, his face and voice recognized by millions who never knew. He played on their favorite records. Number 9. Sheryl Crow. The Missouri native spent 2 years traveling the globe behind the King of Pop before becoming a star herself. Crow joined Michael Jackson's Bad World Tour in 1987 as a backup singer, performing to sold-out stadiums while Jackson commanded the spotlight. She also sang backup for Don Henley, Stevie Wonder, and Rod Stewart throughout the late 1980s, building connections and learning from the industry's biggest names. Audiences of 70,000 screamed for the frontman while she stood in shadows at the back of the stage, absorbing everything. Her debut album, Tuesday Night Music Club, arrived in 1993, building slowly until All I Want to Do became inescapable in summer 1994. The song reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and won Record of the Year at the Grammys. Follow-up albums spawned hits like If It Makes You Happy and Soak Up the Sun. 9 Grammy Awards followed over the years. The backup singer who once harmonized behind the King of Pop had become one of the decade's defining singer-songwriters, selling 50 million albums with her stripped-down rock approach. Before we continue to the top 8, which of these backup musicians surprised you most? Did you know they started in the shadows? Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Number 8. Hal Blaine. The most recorded drummer in history, played behind almost every major artist of the 1960s and 1970s. Blaine anchored the Wrecking Crew, appearing on an estimated 35,000 recordings and 40 #1 singles. His credits read like a history of popular music. Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra, the Beach Boys, Simon and Garfunkel, the Carpenters, John Lennon, the Byrds, Nancy Sinatra, the Mamas, and the Papas. The distinctive drum intro on the Ronettes' Be My Baby came from Blaine. So did the martial beat of Bridge Over Troubled Water and the propulsive energy of Good Vibrations. Despite playing on more hits than any drummer in history, Blaine remained largely unknown to the public for decades. Album credits rarely mention session musicians. The Beach Boys' Pet Sounds lists Brian Wilson, not the anonymous professionals who actually played the instruments. Recognition came late, but finally arrived. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted Blaine in 2000 as a sideman.
Solid is the word we always used to use for great music in the old days. And of course,
And the 2008 documentary The Wrecking Crew brought overdue attention to his contributions. He died in 2019 at age 90, his drumming forever embedded in the soundtrack of American popular music. Number 7. James Jamerson.
To bring some understanding here today.
The Motown sound was built on his bass lines, though nobody knew his name. Jamerson was the primary bassist at Hitsville, USA from 1959 to 1972, playing on virtually every record that emerged from the Detroit hit factory. The Four Tops' Reach Out, I'll Be There, The Temptations' My Girl,
My girl, my girl, my girl, talking about my girl.
Stevie Wonder's For Once in My Life, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, Diana Ross and the Supremes' You Can't Hurry Love. His fluid, melodic approach transformed the bass from a background instrument into a lead voice, creating hooks as memorable as any vocal melody. Motown's policy kept musicians anonymous. Album covers featured artists like Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson, while Jamerson and the Funk Brothers remained uncredited session players earning union scale, roughly $50 per session, while the records he played on sold millions. Alcoholism and changing musical tastes led to decline in the 1970s.
What's going on? Hey, what's going on? Tell me what's going on.
Jamerson died in 1983 at age 47, largely forgotten by the industry he helped build. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted him in 2000. Bass players from Jaco Pastorius to Flea cite him as the greatest of all time. Number 6. Leon Russell.
And my life was over. Remember when we were together? Whoa.
By age 17, he was playing nightclubs in Oklahoma. By 25, he was playing on Phil Spector's Wall of Sound Productions. Russell became one of the most sought-after session keyboardists and guitarists of the 1960s, contributing to records by Gary Lewis and the Playboys, the Byrds, Herb Alpert, and dozens of others.
Oh, and I'm over here in England.
His piano appears on the Ronettes' Be My Baby, alongside Hal Blaine's drums. He arranged Delaney and Bonnie's tours, wrote songs for Joe Cocker, and built a reputation as one of the industry's most versatile musicians. The Joe Cocker connection changed everything. Russell organized and led the legendary Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour in 1970, transforming from anonymous session player to bandleader, commanding 43 musicians. His solo career produced classics like A Song for You, covered by over 100 artists, including Donny Hathaway and Whitney Houston.
I love you in a place where there's no space and time.
Tightrope reached number 11 in 1972. Though fame faded by the 1980s, a remarkable late career renaissance arrived via The Union, his 2010 collaboration with Elton John.
Blue window behind the star.
The session musician had outlasted most of the stars he'd backed, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2011. We're halfway through the list, and some of these stories are incredible. Which backup musician's career surprised you the most so far? Let us know in the comments. Number 5. Carol Kaye. Her bass lines drove more hit songs than most artists ever write, yet most people have never heard her name. Kaye played on an estimated 10,000 recording sessions throughout her career, contributing to hits across every genre imaginable. Her bass drives the Beach Boys' Good Vibrations and California Girls. The opening bass line of Sonny and Cher's The Beat Goes On came from her fingers.
Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain.
She played for Phil Spector, Quincy Jones, Mel Torme, Frank Sinatra, Simon and Garfunkel, and The Doors, becoming the first woman to break into the male-dominated world of major session work.
5% of the chords of all the standards ran cycle for a while, and I was sitting there biting.
As part of the Wrecking Crew, Kaye worked alongside Hal Blaine and Glen Campbell, often playing 3 or 4 sessions per day. She taught hundreds of students, wrote bass instruction books, and helped define the sound of 1960s California pop. Unlike some of her peers, Kaye received minimal recognition until decades later. Documentaries and interviews in the 2000s finally brought attention to her contributions. Now in her late 80s, she remains a living link to an era when anonymous studio musicians created the sound of a generation, while the artists they backed received all the credit and fame. Number 4. Darlene Love. Phil Spector's greatest weapon was a voice the public never knew belonged to her. Love was the lead singer on He's a Rebel, a #1 hit in 1962.
He is always good to me, good to him I try to be, 'cause he's not a rebel, no, no, no.
But the song was credited to the Crystals, a group she wasn't even part of. Spector regularly used Love's powerful voice on recordings attributed to other artists, creating hits while keeping her identity hidden. She finally recorded under her own name with Christmas, Baby Please Come Home, in 1963. But Spector controlled her contract and limited her opportunities. The man who made her sing kept her name off the records. When the hits stopped, Love's story took a devastating turn. By the 1970s, she was working as a house cleaner in Los Angeles to survive, scrubbing toilets while her voice played on oldies radio stations. A role in the Lethal Weapon films sparked a comeback. She appeared on Broadway in Hairspray. Bruce Springsteen championed her work. In 2011, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame finally inducted Darlene Love as a performer. She was 70 years old. The voice behind dozens of classic recordings had finally received her name. Number 3, Cissy Houston. Elvis Presley wanted her voice behind him for every Las Vegas performance from 1969 until his death. Houston led the Sweet Inspirations, a backup group that became the preferred choice of the era's biggest stars. The King's loyalty lasted 8 years, her harmonies threading through his live performances and recordings during his final decade. She also backed Aretha Franklin on dozens of recordings, her voice weaving through soul classics that defined the late 1960s and early 1970s. Houston's credits extend far beyond Elvis and Aretha. She sang on Dusty Springfield's Son of a Preacher Man, Van Morrison's Brown-Eyed Girl, and Jimi Hendrix's Burning of the Midnight Lamp. 2 Grammy Awards recognized her solo gospel work, yet she remained primarily known as a supporting voice, her name recognition never matching her extraordinary talent. The irony became complete when daughter Whitney became perhaps the greatest vocalist of her generation. Cissy had sung backup for legends, but her own child became the legend whose voice dominated the 1980s and 1990s.
No God can solve them.
Number 2, Mary Clayton.
See your flag man coming around. But I swear my...
One scream on one song immortalized her voice forever. Clayton was pulled from bed at midnight to sing on the Rolling Stones' Gimme Shelter in 1969, arriving at the studio pregnant and wearing curlers. Producer Jack Nitzsche needed a powerful female voice to match the song's apocalyptic intensity. Clayton delivered vocals so ferocious that Mick Jagger can be heard on the recording exclaiming in awe, "The rape murder, it's just a shot. Away!" Lines became one of rock's most harrowing moments, her voice cracking with raw emotion on the final takes.
Why don't you give me some shelter? Oh, I think I'm gonna feel.
She suffered a miscarriage shortly after the session. Despite that iconic moment, Clayton never achieved the solo stardom her voice deserved. She sang backup for Neil Young, Joe Cocker, Linda Ronstadt, and Lynyrd Skynyrd, her powerful alto enhancing countless recordings. Solo albums failed to connect commercially. The 2013 documentary, 20 Feet from Stardom, finally brought her story to wider audiences, winning an Academy Award. The following year, a car accident resulted in the amputation of both her legs. Clayton survived and continued performing, her voice intact, still the same force that electrified Gimme Shelter decades earlier. Number 1, Lisa Fischer. In 1992, she won a Grammy Award for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance. The song How Can I Ease the Pain showcased a voice that critics compared to the greatest singers of any era. Labels expected a massive solo career to follow. Instead, Fischer made a choice that baffled the industry. She returned to backup singing, spending the next 25 years touring with the Rolling Stones rather than pursuing the spotlight herself. When asked why, she said the freedom of backing work suited her better than the pressure of stardom. The 2013 documentary, 20 Feet from Stardom, made Fischer its emotional centerpiece. Audiences watched a Grammy winner choosing harmony over fame, preferring the shadows over the relentless demands of a solo career. Mick Jagger called her his favorite voice on stage. Sting hired her regularly. Tina Turner expressed disbelief that Fischer hadn't become a household name. She told interviewers that backing singing was an art form in itself, not a stepping stone to something greater. Fischer continues touring today, her voice still drawing standing ovations, proving that some musicians are too talented for their own fame and perfectly content to let others take the credit.